the dog head, and then the, it was hilarious. Hilarious.
Okay.
And he took it very, very well when he realized it.
That's good.
Okay.
Good sense of humor.
Okay. So,
But I wanted to do
over here and listen over there.
I wanted to do it on
that's people will call in, sir.
Look, 21st TSC, this is Cab Neeson from the G6. I ask that as you dial into this audio bridge, you place your calls on mute until the Q&A session begins. And that above all, if you have to take a phone call, do not take the call using that phone. Hang up, take your call, and then dial back into the Facebook Live event. Thank you.
All right, sir, please go ahead.
You're going to moderate
If
who's
there's,
moderating the questions?
if there are questions that come up, sir,
Someone.
I will pass them.
You'll get them on the
Yes, sir.
online too.
Yes, sir.
Did you get the message?
Sir, I'll give you the authority to unmute yourself when you're live, sir.
I'm live.
Good morning, Team 21. This is Lieutenant Colonel Central Jones. I'm the 21st TSC Equal Opportunity Program Manager. It's good to be connected with you this morning, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. A couple of admin notes. If you have a question during the discussion, please feel free to raise your question. If you're on the audio bridge, just make your question known or make your comment known. If you are joining us via Facebook Live, you can chat your question or your comment into the chat area. Sir, some comments that we've heard in the past are that we provide input for the survey and we take the survey, but we don't always hear back based on our input. And so, sir, I'd like to thank you for your time on this. I'd also like to make a couple of general comments about the structure of the discussion this morning. The climate survey is an instrument that commanders use to give them perspective on the perceptions of their personnel. So the survey is designed to evaluate 16 climate factors and a few other areas like connectedness and hazing and bullying. On the next few slides, you will see words like favorable and favorable ratings, and that's pertaining to the range of positive or negative responses, such as I strongly agree, I strongly disagree. The results of the survey led us to identify top 5 concerns. 3 of those are solely based on the volume of comments based on those particular areas or those themes. 2 of those are based on solely on the favorability ratings. There's also a list of our top 3 strengths, and those are also based on favorability ratings. So, sir, I'd like to give you the mic and lead the discussion and provide the team with your feedback on the survey results.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks, Central, and thanks to everybody for who has signed in. So I've got several points I want to talk about up front, and then we'll go into some of the actual survey statistics and where we are from a standpoint of what you have, the feedback that you have given us. And so first of all, why are we doing this on Facebook? We might muddle through this. I might muddle through this because I'm not generally a Facebook guy. I'm not a social media guy. But this is the first headquarters that I've commanded, and I've been very, very fortunate to command across all echelons, where I don't know everybody, and for me and my leadership style, that's uncomfortable. So because I've always had smaller headquarters. And here, because of travel requirements and my other role as the DCGS of USER, I spend a lot more time out of the headquarters than I would normally like to. So this is my attempt to broaden that horizon and then connect with more people and give you the opportunity to give us some ask me questions and give actual feedback. So that's why we're trying this on Facebook. And do I need to make a comment and tell people to mute their mics?
Yes,
yeah. So we'll figure this out. So, hey, look, if you got your mic open, please mute your mic because we are getting a little bit of feedback. But if this works and we get some positive feedback, we'll continue doing this kind of thing. So before I get started talking about the overall climate survey, I want to highlight a couple of things that I know that's on everybody's mind. The first one is COVID-19 and/or coronavirus, but COVID-19 is the official name of the virus. So here's what we know right now. Last night, that's affecting us right here in the Kaiserslautern area. Last night, we were notified by county authorities that there has in fact been a 32-year-old male that has been admitted into the downtown hospital who has tested positive for COVID-19. He had recently traveled to Iran and had contact with somebody who was infected, and now he's back here and he is in isolation. Out of that, because that clinic and that hospital treats some dependents are being notified that they need to call in for potential screening because they had transited through the hospital clinic, hospital or / clinic in the time that this individual had gone through there. He is the only known case that we have in the area. But I think as professionals, what we need to do is we need to understand that he is most likely not going to be the last. So here's some other things I've learned. So this morning, I'll be honest with you, I did not go to PT. I did not do PT. I spent that time reading what I can about the flu versus coronavirus or COVID-19 controversy that's kind of sweeping the United States media. And I went through some different websites and I found a report that I could understand that came out of Johns Hopkins. So it was very enlightening to me. And the first thing it said is basically the first takeaway I got out of this document was, hey, it's still too early to know, and so don't make comparisons. Yesterday, I found myself falling into the trap of making comparisons. But here's the facts. The survey the report was an analysis of about 48,000 cases out of China. And so it was very isolated to China. And the highest mortality rates for COVID-19 were in the Wuhan province where it originated from. And a couple of facts that were in this out of that 47,000, if you're not 9 years and below, had a 0% mortality rate. So everybody that contracted the virus who was 9 years or below survived. The deaths that came out of that province were almost exclusively in the older population, which is, and that's why we want to compare it to the flu virus, because that's kind of the same trend across the world with the common flu. And those who had mild or severe cases, there was a very, very small mortality rate. Those who were in critical, the mortality rate was much higher, but it was also that age of that population of 60 or 65 and above, and pre-existing conditions were a huge factor. Cardiovascular disease, respiratory illness or respiratory problems, and then cardiovascular, respiratory, and diabetes, which I found to be pretty interesting. So it's still that pre-existing people who have potentially compromised immune systems that are at greatest risk. That's also like the flu. That's why I think we like to compare it. Right now we are taking. Right now, what we're doing, we are in step with the local authorities. And U.S. Army Europe's position is that we will follow what the German, our host German nation, is going to do. And so, for example, down in Italy, in areas where there's higher concentrations around Vicenza, the local Italian schools are closed. So U.S. Army or United States schools on Army installations are closed. So we're going to follow what our host nation does. The other thing I want to point out is that the highest rate of deaths are, of course, coming out of China. That's also where they have more pressure on their healthcare system. Both our healthcare system here and also on the German economy it's world-class healthcare, and that is also supporting it. And the last thing I want to say before we go into another subject is let's make sure we keep the numbers in perspective. Right now, there have been 0 deaths in the United States from the virus. you can go to the CDC website, and they've got a live updated heat map of where the cases are and how many deaths. And right now, there's 2,500 deaths across the world, almost exclusively in China, from the virus. If they had a heat map for the common flu, and they might, that tracks how many deaths that we have in the United States on an annual basis, the estimate I saw this morning is that we'll probably have about 60,000 people in the United States die from the common flu this year. So we have to keep it in perspective. So my message is continue looking at our social media sites. We're working very hard to baseline that information so that your families can see it, that you can see it, and then take basic precautions. I've personally gone to a no handshaking policy, which is difficult for me because I like to shake hands, and I'm using sanitizer on a much more frequent basis after meetings where I'm touching stuff, and then also washing your hands. So basic hygiene. Wash your hands in soap and water for 20 seconds is by far the most effective way to prevent the spread of the virus. And we will work through this, and we will continue to message that out. So at the end, I do have our surgeon in here. So if anybody's got some specific questions on COVID-19 that I can't answer, Doc Brown can help me on that. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about very quickly, Defender. Right now, for those of you involved in Defender, I cannot say enough how proud I am of Team 21 and all of our partners as we are well underway with Defender. I tell people when they say, hey, Defender's in April, May, no. For us, for the 21st TSC, Defender started on the 19th of January when we deployed our first elements up to Bergen-Honey out of our STB to establish operations. Defender is well underway, and we are right now, knock wood, we're ahead of schedule, and our trans nodes are up. All of our border crossings are going well. The ships have come in and gone out ahead of schedule. The team is performing magnificently, and I'm not talking just Team 21, but the broader Team 21. Our partners of the 405th, SDDC, the 104 UK, the German Bundeswehr. So the operation is going very, very well, and I want to say thank you to everybody. We are going to continue, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. We are going to continue a level of higher op tempo as we go across all the way until June. And I've asked our leaders to balance as much as they can within our own internal formations and do what we can to manage that op tempo to lessen the impact on our families. But this is the largest exercise that I've seen in my 30-plus year career, and it's going to impact us from a standpoint of how much we're going to ask our soldiers, our civilians, and our families to do while we do this. But this is extremely important, not only for the United States Army, but for the NATO alliance. And you should be very, very proud of that. 30 years from now, our young soldiers who will be command sergeants, majors, and generals will be talking about, hey, when we did Defender 20 in Europe and stared down potential adversaries and said, yes, we can do this. With that, I'll transition into somebody's got a hot mic out there, please. Check your mics. I'll transition into the command climate survey. So the bottom line up front on the survey, the survey was sent out to a couple hundred folks. We had about 70% of that couple hundred folks who participated, and I want to say thank you very much. And I'm very, very happy to report and proud to report that our favorability ratings across the major categories are not just a little bit higher than other like units and other units in the United States Army. They break it down into like units and then units in the United States Army. And we're not just a little bit higher in our ratings, but in some cases we're substantially higher. So that speaks to the environment. That speaks to the leaders that are out there leading from the front, and it also speaks to the mission execution. What I believe, and this is what I choose to believe, is that that we have a great mission, and that great mission, because people are happy with what they do and they feel valued and they feel that what they do, what we're doing is important, because it is. That bleeds over into other categories of how we treat people. It bleeds over to job satisfaction, and when you're happy at work, I will tell you personally, when I'm happy at work, I'm generally probably a lot more pleasant to be around at home as well. And so I think that bleeds into that as well. The job and the mission here, and it's a mission, provides that foundation of that leaders can particularly high op tempo, that leaders have to lead our way through, and it provides that foundation of a very, very positive work environment. So things that we're doing well, as according to your feedback on the survey, our engagement. So 96% of you said, hey, we're enthused about the work that we do. It's value added, it's important, and we enjoy doing it. Job satisfaction, 93% favorable. Again, much higher than units like us, and also Army average. Organizational performance, our percentage was 88% favorable, which is, and just to give you some context, for like unit types, the average is 63%, and across the entire United States Army, the average is 67%. So we're clearly 20 points higher. So that's the things that I want to highlight, and we can go down the list if anybody's interested. They can come see me or shoot me a note. But commitment, senior leadership, organizational performance, group cohesion, trust in leadership, job satisfaction, organizational processes, engagement, inclusion at work, discrimination, and sexual harassment, we were all significantly better than units like us. I'll throw some additional numbers at you. Inclusion at work, we were 91%. Army average was 65%, and like units like us, 62%. Discrimination, 83%, and we'll talk about that. Unit type, 63%, Army average, 67%. And then sexual harassment, 93% was our average survey responses, or positive survey responses. Unit type was 71, and the Army average was 75. So we're doing well in those categories. So let's talk about things that we can improve. One, discrimination and sexual harassment. We need to be 100%. Any case of discrimination, any case of sexual harassment is one too many, and we do have some. But I feel confident that leaders are engaged, and that we are working hard to beat that down and to address those cases. But we can't do anything about them unless we know about them. And so that's why I ask that you continue to use our equal opportunity professionals, the Command IG, myself personally. You let me know, let us know, give us a chance if you're facing any kind of and look, it's important. Dignity and respect is important enough for me that I have put that into a policy letter, and I lump in that policy letter equal opportunity, discrimination, sexual harassment. All those categories, to me personally, it falls into dignity and respect. If we treat each other with dignity and respect, those other problems won't happen. And then I could put Centrell out doing a logistics job, because we wouldn't need her doing what you do. So our job and our goal is to put you out of business. Yep. And the same way with our sharp professionals as well. But we're going to keep hammering away at it. The other thing that screamed out at me in the individual comments, and I do appreciate your comments, and I read every single one of them, was that, hey, look, we love our job. We're working hard. It's very valuable work, but you're working the crap out of us, and our op tempo is a challenge, and it's very high. Now that we are trying to balance it in several things. The rollout of Team 21 time on Fridays, and I hope that you're taking it. Mission dependent, but my sense is that a lot of people are taking it. That's just one thing that I can say, that, hey, look, I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to do my part to reduce the op tempo. The other one is the G3 has published a surge time of when we're going to man the COIC. So because as we go through the entire process of Defender, there are going to be times, like, for example, when we're doing the JWA, the Joint Warfighting Assessment, it's a war game, the first couple of weeks of May, where it's going to be all hands on deck, and we're going to have a spike in op tempo. So what I've asked the three to do is to lay out a time where we spike, and then a calendar that says, okay, spike, and then it goes down. We can go steady state, and spike, goes down and goes steady state. And then also to monitor closely those times that are big on families. Easter coming up, spring break coming up, and then try to get as many people out on leave during spring break in those times as possible. Look, my own personal staff, the XO and the 8 are both going to go on leave during spring break because it's important for them and their families, and I'm gonna be okay. I know how to get to work. I know how to turn my computer on, and we'll work through it. So I encourage all leaders to really peel the onion back on that and do the right things for our families. The other thing that's not lost on me is that some of you have already started to get orders, and we have to manage and balance PCS task, shipping cars, household goods pickups, and stuff like that. So the key thing is that you communicate that to your leaders early and often, so that there's no aha moments where it's like, hey, Private Mohan ain't going to be here tomorrow because he's PCSing. So please communicate, do your part to communicate that to leaders so we can do something about it. So OPTEMPO was the biggest category of risk that came out about our headquarters. Short suspense task were also was something that was messaged in the command climate survey, and here's what we're doing about that. I personally have pushed back on numerous tasks that came out of the headquarters that said, hey, we got to have an answer in 24 hours. And I've pushed back on those. The 3 is very well integrated into the USARA G3. They do daily syncs. The colonels of the organization are doing weekly syncs with the USARA G4 so that we can see requirements ahead of time and lessen the impact that we have on as much as possible on our internal staff sections. I push back on every award that comes across my desk that says hot on it, because for a while there, 100% of the awards that came in, everyone was hot, and so what really means hot? And so and I also do my part to be disciplined for my stuff that comes in my inbox. I try to turn it around in 24 hours. And I think I'm successful the majority of the time, unless I'm traveling. And then we've got a way for me to give approval for stuff and move it anyway. So the other piece is that we want to talk about is performance feedback. Counseling is performance feedback. Just sit down, hey, let's talk about something real quick. That's a form of counseling. It does not have to be on a 4856. I know the IG and all the people like to see that on a 4856, but sometimes you just need to sit people down and say, hey, look, here's where I need you to adjust left and right. I did that for my personal staff. And then I also got feedback of, okay, almost verbatim, hey, what am I doing that's driving you guys nuts? And I had a couple of things that I had to attempt to adjust my behavior. I'm not 100% successful, but that's what I'm working through. So that's important as well, that we have that feedback and that counseling. And again, it doesn't have to be on a 4856, but we owe it to our soldiers to sit down and talk to them in a manner that they understand this is performance counseling one way or the other. And for senior leaders, as a battalion commander, I did it with all my lieutenants, and I sat them down because I was their senior rater, and I said, hey, here's where you are. I did the same thing with company commanders. I didn't put it on a 4856 with the exception of the first one, their initial counseling, but then I made notes, and we went back and reviewed it every quarter of where they were and the things we talked about they needed to work on, and did that review. And I had kept a running spreadsheet, and it was very effective for me. So there's all kinds of TTPs that people have used, but the key thing is you got to talk to your folks. Organizational processes, 86% favorable. That's still extremely high, but it's something that we're working on. And I will tell you that that's a drum that I beat all the time. I want to know what the process is, and we talked about it this morning at the stand-up. Hey, so we're bringing on additional units. We're bringing them on to the mission partner environment, and we're struggling right now. Struggling is maybe a too harsh of a term, but we're working through a lot of obstacles to bring it on other NATO allies onto mission partner environment with the full suite of comms capability that we have. And I told the G6 this morning, keep knocking the targets down, but then keep capturing. So the next country, when we bring another country on the MPE, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm interested in the process. So we've got to keep working that and work the processes so that that we don't have to, as I like to say, watch the same channel again when we struggle through something. Okay. Let's see what else we want to talk about. We talked about op-tempo, performance feedback, discrimination. One case is one case too many. Sexual harassment, one case is one case too many. And then organizational processes, short suspense task, and then op-tempo again. And so we got to just keep knocking away at those targets. And it's op-tempo is only going to get more challenging for us as we go through Defender. And I'll close the formal portion. Do we have any questions for me to answer? Not right now. That's fine. I'll close with just a couple positives. I go back to our strengths. Number one, engagement. 96% favorable rating. Our soldiers and civilians, we are resilient. And we're enthusiastic about what we're doing because our mission matters. What we do on a daily basis is real. I tell people that they ask me, what do you think about this command? I said, it's the best job I have ever had in the Army. And I'm known for saying the job I'm in is the best job, but this is the culmination. I can't imagine another position and another rank for a senior logistician than the commander of the 21st TSC. And somebody said, well, why is that? What makes it different? I said, everything that we do is real here. We're operating out of the same ports. We're driving the same roads. We're using the same convoy support centers. We're working with the same allies that we're working with, or that we will work with if we have to go to a maximum level of effort in a NATO Article 5 scenario. And so everything we do is training for what we're ultimately responsible for which is defend the interests of the United States of America. So that's what makes it so great. Job satisfaction, 93% favorable, and that is again a category leading percentage. Our soldiers and civilians, you like your jobs and you're satisfied. And then organizational performance, in spite of our op-tempo and our challenges, we are knocking down targets and we're working together to solve issues. So end state is we got to sustain our favorables. We got to work away, particularly discrimination, sexual harassment, get them down to, get us up to 100%. And then we can truly achieve that extreme. We're already a high performing organization, but we want to be extremely high performing. We're already leading. And I would say you don't get to see the other units in USER, but here's what I'll tell you. I will bet anybody that our command climate survey is the #1 in USER. The numbers bear it out, and so I want to say thanks for all that you're doing, and I truly appreciate everything that people are doing, particularly in this time of Defender. Let's stay safe. Let's make sure that we're remaining calm as we work through this COVID-19 challenge that we have, and then we'll continue to move forward from there. So that's my spiel. Selwyn.
So we're good. We had no questions at this time. We had one question for Dr. Brown.
Can we go through the question and see what it was and see what the answer is?
Sure. Actually, I'd like Dr. Brown to go ahead and.
All right, Jim.
You want to do that?
This is Dr. Brown, the 21st TSC surgeon. So the question came in, why the attention's on COVID-19 versus, say, the influenza A, which actually is more prevalent out there.
That's a great question.
And my response was, well, basically, again, COVID-19, like SARS, MERS, H1N1 before it, are novel or new viruses. So, of course, they're going to get the attention of the press, of course, which, again, is in the business of putting information out. And, of course, individually as we receive that information. It's a novel virus. Again, we learn more about it each day. So again, it'll remain in the news cycle and why we're tracking it so closely. But thus far, again, reassuringly, it's not behaving more virulent or more severe than your other flu-like illnesses. Again, H1N1 SARS, MERS before that.
The Middle East one was the by far more lethal, right? It was like 20-25% if I
Yes,
remember
sir.
correctly.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So thus far, again, and we continue to monitor this closely. 21st is tied in with USER, with UCOM, and of course, those entities are tied in with DHA, Defense Health Agency, Regional Health Command Europe. And again, we turn to the CDC and the World Health Organization, and of course, host nation partners. So no decisions are made in isolation, and I think we're all leaning very far forward on this. Again, COVID-19 will remain prominent in the press while we still continue to evaluate it. But thus far, again, it is not appearing to be as severe as MERS, MERS, that Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome virus, and certainly it's not appearing to be any more virulent or more deadly than influenza A, which yearly has a high case prevalence. Again, we will continue to monitor what COVID-19 is doing, but right now, all things being equal across the board, it's about a 2% fatality rate. And again, as General Mohan mentioned, the population at risk appears to skew just towards the elderly at this point or old. And I don't hate to assign a number to that, but again, 60 to 65, although that's not elderly in some books.
Not in my mind.
Indeed. It seems to be sparing, if you will, based upon the case history at this point, the pediatric population, which is reassuring. So again, as General Mohan stated, if you fall into the more mature age realm and have some conditions such as cardiovascular disease, existing respiratory illness, anything that is a compromise of the immune system, then yes, your risk for contracting and having a more severe course of the illness certainly is there. And again, at this point, we continue to monitor the situation, but in the day-to-day lives, proper hand hygiene, avoiding sick contacts is probably the best recipe for prevention at this point. Each case that we've seen so far, and again, the criteria put up by Regional Health Command Europe, stipulate travel to an endemic area or exposure to a known person. Yes, there is a case in Kaiserslautern, but the existence of that person in Kaiserslautern and you being in the area, unless you came in direct contact with that person since their arrival back in Germany, which is approximately 1 week ago, then the risk really is minimal at this point. And again, Regional Health Command Europe's guidance for seeking evaluation would be, again, within the last 2 weeks, travel from an endemic area and or exposure to a known case. Couple that with a big and fever greater than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, and upper respiratory symptoms, cough. If you have all three of those symptoms, then the protocol right now is to contact the nurse advice line. They have an algorithm they'll run through, and they'll direct further care at that point, and they'll actually coordinate with the receiving clinic or again, if it's pharmacy, depending on your location, to receive that patient in a safe manner and go forward with that potential testing. If you have the flu-like symptoms but have not been in an area where that the travel ban is in place or have not been in close contact with someone, then again, I would just engage with your primary care manager in the normal fashion and function. Influenza A is out there this year, and again, unfortunately, the symptoms can masquerade, and again, what maybe COVID on a very remote chance. If you have a flu-like illness, it's more likely influenza at this point. That's all I have, sir, pending any input or additional questions.
So, Major Johnson, you're ensuring that all those numbers, the nurse advice line, all those numbers are posted on our website?
That is correct, sir. If you go to the 21st TSC Facebook page right now and go to our post that's pinned to the top of the page and scroll down in the messaging, all the telephone numbers for Germany, the UK, and all the areas that will affect the advice, the nurse advice hotline information is there for your use.
All right, great. Thanks, Owen. Okay.
Hey, everyone, is there anyone on the audio bridge with a question or a comment? We'll pause for 30 seconds.
Hey, sir, this is Kevin R.J. Deason with the G6. I've actually, you brought up a great point in regards to seeing awards come across your desk that register as high. And since I've been here the last 2.5 years, generally I'll have soldiers and NCOs and other company grade leaders, inquire on, why the STB specifically, goes from, a Lieutenant Colonel Sonderman being able to take care of the AM and below population, and how we jump, to the commanding general for ARCOM and MSMs. And of course, I point them to, the Army award regulations and, commanders, though the typical response is, well, 21st has a lot of, 06s. Are any of them able to be delegated to that responsibility? And I said, well, if I ever have a chance to ask the CG, I will ask him on your behalf.
Hey, that's a great question, because I asked the same one when I got here. I said, hey, why am I signing these? Not that I don't want to sign your awards, but I want to keep it moving. Keep the system moving. And legally, there is a requirement for me to sign ARCOMs and above in most cases, particularly for the STB headquarters. The brigades, of course, do their own thing, but for our headquarters, and we ran it through, the legal review, because my intent was to delegate down that signature authority, and the lawyers said nope, because of our current regulations and policies and laws, or that derive from laws, that you have to sign them.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, team, we'll pause for 5 additional seconds for any other questions or comments.
Hey, so my final comment is one, everybody stay safe out of there. Look, we're going to continue to make weather calls that we believe are the right thing to do. And here's what you have to understand coming from me. I will always err on the side of caution for our soldiers and civilians, but particularly our children. And so I will always err on the side of caution when it comes to putting buses on the road. And so just understand that, and anticipate that, and pay attention to our Facebook page. So the second piece, if you like this format, and if you would like for me to do more of these, please let the PAO know, or Lieutenant Colonel Jones, or my front office know. I'm very comfortable with doing this. I would like at some point, Selwyn, to do a Defender update across the footprint. I still we hadn't figured out where I can just pick up the mic and talk to everybody. That would be what I would really prefer to do. But a Defender update as we get further along in the exercise, so that people are tracking what we're doing. And then any other times that we believe that we need to come up on the net. So please let us know if this is effective, if you're interested in me doing this. But it is my attempt to get out to as much of the population as possible. And then finally, hey, like I said earlier, I'm so proud to be the CG of the 21st. It's a dream job, and I hope right now you're sitting in your dream job. And I hope you enjoy your job as much as I do. So everybody have a great weekend. Take your Team 21 time, and be safe this weekend. Thank you very much.
Sport.
Yep. All right. Uh-oh.